Merry Christmas from snowy Cincinnati.
Welcome to Baking with Frank. Frank Rush was a baker at the turn of the 20th century at the Uffelman Baking Company in Cincinnati, and then at his own bakery in Newport, Kentucky. Frank was also my great-grandfather. Through his handwritten batch-sized recipe book, I'm breaking down his recipes and getting to know him better. I'm Tom Mattingly, and this is Baking with Frank.
Welcome back to Baking with Frank. Yes, I've decided it's time for a haircut too, so that's happening this week. Anywho, while we're thinking about it, why don't you just go ahead and hit that like button and then follow so that you don't miss any of the action here on Baking with Frank. So today we're doing something that I've been waiting for probably the longest of any of the recipes in Frank's book to do, because I couldn't figure out what it was. And only after doing a little research in the Book of Cleve, you'll remember the Book of Cleve. Snow just fell from the roof. It's very exciting. It will likely happen again. You should know that I'm perfectly safe. All right, now that we have that out of the way. So anyway, this recipe is called Christmas Torts. And it is a very sparse recipe. If you can see it there, it's in the titles, but it is 5 pounds of sugar, 2 quarts of milk, 2 ounces of ammonia, 1 pound of lard, and flour to stiffen. Now, it's also one of the very few where Effie has already broken it down for us for this. So this is a Frank and Effie collab. But that tells me that it's something that they actually made and that she continued to make after Frank died. So clearly something that was made in the family. And as I researched it with our friend Cleve Cure and his book, that was one of Frank's books, there was the Christmas tree cakes, which is almost exactly the same recipe. That really is just a cookie that you punch a hole in to hang on a Christmas tree. Makes sense. I thought it would be like a window display. Nope. They're Christmas ornaments. At least we think they are. We thought that about buttercreams. Anyway, back to us. So I have taken the liberty of creaming 4 ounces of shortening. Yes, it says lard. I didn't use lard. With 1 1/4 pounds of sugar. Right there. We're going to add to that 1 pint of milk. In this case, using 2% milk because it's what I have now. Ooh, that's just making a milk puddle right in the middle. All right. Scrape that down a touch. And while it's not in the recipe, wait, look at me. Well, it's not in the recipe. I'm going to put in some vanilla. This is, in this case, bourbon vanilla. And I'm going to say it's about a tablespoon worth. I'm just finishing off the bottle. Not the first time I said that. All right, so we're going to let that do its thing here for a second. All right, I'm going to add in a teaspoon. It says ½ ounce. I'm fudging it because I've already got the flour in the thing and I don't have a ½ ounce weight. But I'm going to put that right there in the mix. I'm going to stir that up a bit. Get it well incorporated. We'll start adding flour. So, using a mom spoon. Flour. This is going to take a minute. I won't waste your time. All right, so here we are at the 2 pound of flour stage. It is, well, it's a batter. It's not quite a dough. Tastes all right. I put a little more flavor. All right, so we are at 2.5 pounds of flour and still not there. So in celebration, I've decided to go a little off the board and add in a tablespoon, yes, you heard me, a tablespoon of Chinese 5-spice, right? So this is all the warming spices: anise, fennel, cinnamon, cloves, black pepper. Festive. So there it is, incoming. You can see that the dough is getting a little more thick, right? I don't know if it's going to take this entire half pound, but it's going to be close. All right, so we are just under 3 pounds of flour in there. And we're at a, dough that's holding together. Manageable. Get it off the hook here. I don't know if it's really a hook, more a paddle, but whatever, work with me. It's Christmas. And we're making Christmas toys. Just like Santa and the elves did. Who knew? Bowl scraper. Much better. In scraping the bowl. And the spatula, which is really on for scraping the spatch. Don't ask. All right, so we're gonna take some of that leftover flour, push it back here a little bit. Let's see if we can get this whole thing out here. All right, so that is a mass of dough, if I do say so myself, and it just did. So, I'll flat it out here a little bit. Seems that I have cookie dough everywhere. All right. Now, that didn't sound good. Nobody tell. I'm going to take these down fairly thin, and then we're going to go to yet another stash of Mom cookie cutters. These were previously hanging on the tree. Mom cookie cutters. And when I looked this up, I'm not sure why I'm going through puberty again, but when I looked this up, it was interesting to me that we think of old-time Christmas and lots of fancy shapes and getting out the really fancy cookie cutters. And they just didn't do that, at least not with this recipe. These were deformed gingerbread men. These were more frequently geometric shapes because that was easier for the bakers that they would then potentially decorate into. Well, we'll figure that out later. Decorate into other things, right? Like a Christmas ornament or what have you. So, not being one to buck tradition, well, I do it all the time, but anyway, this isn't about me, this is about you. I'm going to take out a ring cutter, that size. I don't know what that size is, but Now we know. Made in China. There you go. And just cut out some rings. Now, if we were putting these on the tree, which I'm not planning to do, we would put holes in them. Not gonna do that either. You get the idea, right? So we're cutting out circles of the Christmas toys, and then onto the cookie sheet. And I expect that these are going to be a fairly robust, well, that one's stuck. I'm going to put that Mr. Gingerbread Man there, because they have to hang on a tree. I've got several thoughts going at once. So, we'll see. But I'll go ahead and cut the rest of these out. We'll put them in the oven, 350, 10 to 12 minutes, see where we are. Okay, so Christmas toys are cooling and or baking, or both. You can see them behind me. But we're going to do something else, a little something else to top them off. So they typically would be either left plain and hung on the tree like that. One of the, I guess a former company now, Cincinnati Gas and Electric, for years had a Christmas train display, which still exists, but they don't, blah, blah, blah. But they would make cookies and had them out plain that were vanilla cookies, and they were delicious when you came to see the train exhibit. We can do that, and we'll probably try one that's plain, but we're also going to do this. So, mom spoon. Someday we're going to have to define what a mom spoon is. But essentially it's somewhere between a tablespoon and a serving spoon. But anyway, a mom spoon of heaping powdered sugar. And, yes, you know that sound, a mom spoon of bourbon. Whatever bourbon you like. Stir that up, and I will likely add more sugar until we get to a bourbon glaze. So that's 2 mom spoons of sugar, and that might be just about right. Yeah, we might use a little more. You know, all things being equal. I could add flour to stiffen, but I'm not going to do that. So we're going to call that a half. So 2.5 mom spoons. And I like how that's looking. And I like how it's smelling, to be clear. So, we're going to bring over one of the, we're going to move things out of the way, which I probably should have done first. I'm going to just pour a little bit in the middle, like that, and then spread it around. More of a glaze than an icing. I'm totally making this up on the spot. So if you're saying, well, that's not how I do glaze, well, it's probably not, because this is the first time I've done it. Now, if you wanted, you could put sparkly sugar on it. You could put different colored sugars on it. You could put an elephant on it for all I care. It's up to you. It's your cookie. This is how I'm going with it. Yes, they're a little white on white. But hey, what else can you do? Hey, here's Grandma's mistletoe thing. Because we all get to share in that ugly. All right, so I'm not going to lie. The bourbon glaze just smelled so darn good. But I ended up putting it on all of them. So, while the rest of them are drying out, we're going to try this one. Not overly spicy. The vanilla gives it a little boost. That bourbon glaze, though, that might be the key. These are tasty. And I could happily hang these on my Christmas tree and call them snowballs.